Hey guys, it's David R. Becker here with BeckerArt, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to create a painting from the scene that you're working from. It's kind of weird because in the last couple of weeks and months actually that I've been away doing plein air and also doing some studio paintings, I've come to realize that I never really went over with you guys on how you take the subject matter and turn it into your own painting and create your own painting and not just copying it from a T, though that some people do it that way too. So basically there's two kind of painters. Ones that are more hyper realistic, where they want to make it look just like the scene, where it looks identical with no changes in the color, no changes in the way it's placed, what's happening in there. And that's either plein air or even when they're in the studio. They use a photograph or they plein air painting and making exactly site size to what they see out there, and then they try to actually even color and copy the color that they see out there. And then the other way is to create from the reference or from what you see out there and create your own painting in the way that you want it to be. And so this is a painting right here I did of Easton, and it was downtown, and it was this is the scene that I used. This is actually after it was raining like this. Let me just show you this for a second. So it was raining super, super hard like this. And that's what we started. And it was a quick paint, so I had 2 hours to do this. And so right at the buzzer, this was happening. It was raining like that. And so I drew it from that scene that you see on the left right here. So I'm sitting there underneath my van and taking and drawing this scene that you see on the top, the painting. And I knew it was going to probably stop, or hoping it was probably going to stop, because I could still paint it like this. But so I had a little bit of two ways that I could possibly paint it. Or three ways, because it got really hot at the very end, where the sun came out and it was so hot. So I had to decide when I actually paint it. For drawing, it doesn't matter, right? When I'm drawing it, I'm kind of putting in, and every once in a while when a car would go by, I would kind of imagine that in there and in the scene, and then I would put it in there by just kind of memorizing where the top of the car is and compared to everything else. And so this is what you do. I decided I would go from like these doors to the tree line with the one car in the back. And so that's, you take your viewfinder and you kind of picture it. And a scene like this, which is panoramic, that was a little bit more interesting because I give myself an edge. And as you can tell, though, in the photograph, I went to about, where is my pointer? Here it is, my pointer. And so I went from here. I went from, instead of going, I went from this point right here. I always give myself a rectangle to what I'm going to go to this side, top and bottom. I kind of just feel it out and feel where the perimeter of my picture is going to be. And then I start drawing all the things in that I want to have in. And it's kind of like what I'm doing there. And so as you can see, I drew it when it was raining like this, but then after it stopped raining, that's when I started painting it, and I went to that scene. So that's the scene. I kind of looked at this scene then, and I started drawing from or painting from this scene that you see in the bottom. And that's what I saw. I wasn't painting from a photograph. This is not a studio painting. This is a plein air painting. But I would do the same thing if I'm doing it from my photograph. Some people would take that photograph and copy it to a T and copy it exactly the way it is so it would look like a photograph. Now, if you're doing it that way, you got to make sure that you, in your studio, and you're copying it hyper-realistically, then you got to make sure that the photograph is really, really good and it has all the right lighting that you want, and so you can change it up a little bit, I guess, but most of those people the people who are hyper-realistic, they make sure they have a really good photo so that the painting looks good because they're copying the photo to a T and making every brick and everything match the scene that they're painting from. I don't think there is. I'm not sure if there is anybody that does hyperrealism outside in plein air. It would be really kind of hard because it's changing all the time. Like you saw here, it rained. It started raining. Then this is about half an hour later, and it stopped, and so all the water was running out on the street. And then about an hour after that, it came out sun. The sun came out. So as a plein air painter, you kind of choose little things along the way. And luck, if it's overcast, then usually it's pretty easy because then it stays that way. But as the sun also shifts, then you have to decide, do you stop at a certain point? And that's where a value study, before you even start, I didn't actually do a value study to this one because it was a quick paint. I had to do it in 2 hours. So I just squinted my eyes and saw that the trees and some of the cars and some of the plants in the middle were my darks, and the street and the sky were the lights, basically, with the light on the building in front. And the sidewalk is also light. So it's just generally, and so that's how I did. So I want to show you a few more of these kind of things where artists that I know that are pretty good at what they do. And let me just go down here for a second. Hold on. So we're going to start with this one, and I'm not sure who this artist is. It could be Amit Kapoor. It could be, yeah, there's a bunch of artists that paint this style. But if you look at what they used for their photograph, or if they were outside, what they saw, and it's probably what they saw, and this is probably plein air. I'm not totally sure about that. I picked these up on Pinterest just to show you. And I know some of these artists because I met them at Pace, but I got a feeling this one was done at the place. But you see how he changed everything? Changed a lot of things. The colors, the shape of the boat, left some boats in, took some boats out, let the background go way back. And so you have to decide as you paint. And this is not just for outside plein air painters. This is also for studio painters. Because if you can do the thing that I was talking about before, hyper-realistically, but then you got to have a photograph that's very, very good. Or you do it like this, where you change things, and you do that in your little value study. And some of them that do it outside just do it while they're drawing it. And they already know in their mind what is going to be a good subject matter and also a good value pattern. All right, so look at how he changed it completely. And on the left is all his lights, and they simplify that big wash of dark on the left, which is kind of like what the photograph is, but he decided also that there's more of a shadow in the front, way in the front in the water, and that way the water in front just lays down and it makes it look like it's the foreground. Like if it would be like what the photograph is, that shows overlapping of things, but the foreground water is the same as the background water and the same tightness. Look at the field, the depth of field in the photograph, that the boats on the right side are all very detailed, but he just decided to, or her, I'm not sure who this painter is, that they would push that back and just make it just one solid gray with the shape of the things that are in front. So see, that's one way of doing it. And so we're going to go to the next one. And this one, I don't know what name that is. Is that Alvaro Castanat, maybe? But if not, again, you could paint this photo just like it is, with the sky being blue and the shadows being blue. And that's the neat thing about artists, that we're not all painting the same thing. Some are hyperrealist, some are impressionist, and you decide on how you want to do this. And looks like the sun was also moving on this one, because part of this picture, the side is like visual. But even his drawing is very limited. Whoever this artist is was very limited into what he was going to put down. Like he didn't put the pier coming forward. He didn't put those boats all lined up down there. He put one boat in the water and made the whole foreground a little bit of the water, without the pier, without all those boats. So you decide on your composition, and you don't have to always put exactly what's there. It can be what you want to create in the painting. You are the artist, you're a creator. You can make it look just like that, that's cool. You can use those exact colors, but there's other artists that don't do that. And they just take it and they make up and they create their own painting from the reference, where some other people take the reference and create the reference so it looks like the reference. Both all good, all good. And there's so many different styles too within that. This is watercolor because I'm a watercolor teacher, but this happens the same thing in oils and in acrylic. You can do the same thing, right? All right, let's go to one more here. Just gonna go real quickly. So this one again, I think is Amit Kapoor. Yeah, Amit, and he was at Pace. This one is kind of like close to what it is, and look at, he drew this, and he is definitely an outside painter, plein air painter, but we all do studio paintings, and so some studio painters will, copy and trace the actual image, to make it look exactly like that, and there's people like I met here who just creates the big shapes of things and makes it look like just like the feeling of that. I think they call this the cake or something in Italy, in Rome. Something like, I forgot what they call this. I've never been to Rome, but I heard about what this thing was. And look at, he left the cars out. He did put two people in there that were walking, and so did he take the picture when he was painting it? Or this is just a photograph that he did in the studio, but still did it like he was outside? Sometimes you can't tell. And he didn't use the colors of the blue sky. A lot of times people don't use the blue sky the way it is because of the color scheme they're trying to go for. And it looks like he's going for violet and yellows. And so making it blue sky up there, then you have to be more orange in there. It's somewhat blue. I mean, it's more of an overcast blue. But, it's all depends on what the artist wants. Let me go one more, I think. Oh, we have a couple more here. This one too. Look at how different the boats in front are. Very close to what it is. Left out the little pier. Why? Why did you leave out the pier? But you are the artist. You decide on what you want in there, and you decide this before you start painting. You decide on these big, broad shapes and your value pattern before you paint, before you start painting, because you have to as a watercolorist. You cannot draw something in there and then later change it. A little bit because you think, well, maybe I didn't want that pier. That pier is light, and so you cannot just all of a sudden, decide I want to put a pier in there, or I want to take it out, or put things back and forth. No, you decide right in the beginning when you're drawing it, and when you're drawing your little thumbnails. Some people do thumbnails. Some people like myself, who have like a photographic memory. I kind of look at it, squint my eyes, look for the value pattern, and then find my edges, find my top and bottom. And then when I'm outside, actually, when I'm taking a photograph, then it's a little bit different because I can only go to that edge when the photograph, where if I'm plein air painting, I can go as wide as I want, as high as I want. And also, do you want to leave things in or put things out, or make things come closer to you? Like look at the painting. It looks like the far distance is closer to him. He brought it up so that it's a little bit bigger. So very cool. I mean, this is what I like you to do, is look at other painters' work and even paint this scene and see what you can do with that. It's not illegal to take and paint from other artists' work. Just don't go and sell it as your own. But this is what artists do all the time. And way back, the masters used to copy from the other masters, and just look at how they handle things. It's really neat. And actually, it's so neat when you see the actual photograph that they used to where they took the painting. And it helped me a lot when I went out plein air painting, and seeing what people see and what they paint and how they leave things in, take things out, leave it just like it is. It's all up to you, the artist. A couple more. This is exciting, right? It's fun to see what somebody does and creates with an image or from where they were painting plein air. This one is Alvaro Castanet, and but look at the people, and stuff. And he doesn't do anything that looks just like like the photograph. He creates the painting the way he wants it to look. He wants the background to look at the buildings in the background there. They're way, way, way in the distance, like about a mile away. But he brought them up a little bit, and he's got that person on the left, which that person would be standing on the actual rails if he would actually put them in there right there. But he decided, as the artist, he's creator, he wants to put that person there because it balances it out. If you do it the other way, then it's really heavy on the one side. And if you had all those people there, he needs a counterweight, because you got to get it kind of balanced, your painting. So pretty neat, right? That how they take these images and these photographs, or if they're alive, how they do and change things. see, I think there's one more. One more. This is the last one. And this one I found to be very interesting because a lot of times when you have an overcast, you have to go for the local color of objects to create shapes. But look at how all the elements in all of this is overcast, no shadowing, no, everything is the same value. It's all dark on the bottom, so he could have done the sky's light and everything down below is darker. Maybe that tent or the tent right there or the umbrella, that and maybe a car could have been white in the dark area. But instead, he decided to make it more sunny, like without clouds, because it's like a yellow sky. And maybe it was that way, but then right when he took the shot of the photograph, it suddenly was the overcast. But so you take things when, especially when you're outside, and that's like I feel it's very important to every once in a while to go outside and paint or just photograph and look at things outside and see how they really are. And it's so incredibly useful to see what certain colors are. And a lot of times we tend to paint really, really colorful when outside, if you look at the scene in the photograph, it's very gray, right? I mean, it is super gray. There's maybe the red in the taillights of the cars, the green on the windows, or I mean, the green on the trees. The building is red, and he took that, you know, the left side is the darkest, but then look at how the bridge is like a middle tone, and he totally, many people would put all that detail in the church way in the distance, but instead, what does he do? A triangle and a couple other triangles and rectangles, and that's it. There's nothing back there to show exactly, but you can kind of tell that it is a church, right? It's a church with the steeple and the background. And then you got that's something a little bit farther forward is the bridge, and look at how the contrast there brings it in front of it by putting a little bit of white on top of that line too. So very interesting, and I got all these on Pinterest, and so I just a lot of times I look at other artists' work through Pinterest or Instagram, and I just look at what they're doing. And when I found these, because they started showing all that, because when you look at one of them, of course your algorithm will take you through and find you a ton of these. I could have shown you like 12 more or 20 more actually. And so it's fun to see what an artist actually paints and and if they change it to something else, or how, like look at the car's gone, he put people there instead. And the car is there way in the one that's second underneath the bridge almost. And actually, he put the truck in. There's a truck coming through, and so he did that. And again, you never know if this is a studio painting or if it's a plein air painting on these guys. Most people that you can tell if they're a studio painter or a plein air painter, because plein air painters a lot of times are a little bit looser like this. They don't get down to really the nitty gritty and hyper-realism. It just would take too long. I kind of find that I just started doing these plein air events like about 2 years ago, and I'm getting kind of looser, I'm finding, because I can't do the tightness that I want like I do in the studio, and so it's just a little bit different. All right, so I hope this helped you a little bit when it comes to designing your work and design it to where you want it to be. Are you a loose painter? Are you a tight painter? Are you a studio painter, plein air painter? You can be all three of those. Also, you can be tight on some things, and most people don't do the plein air painting and the studio painting and then do it different style. But there probably is somebody out there though. So you do what you do you, and get out there and just every once in a while go out there and look. Even when you're taking the photos, if you take your photos, you'll learn from them. And so look at what you're taking a picture of, and then how can you change it? Because I have so many students come up to me and show me their photographs and wondering what to do with it and how to paint it. And seeing these kind of things, you can see and learn from them. All right, so get on your computer, go to Pinterest, and type in paintings from photos. and just see how that will help you. All right, this has been way too long, but I thought it was very interesting, and it helps me a lot, and so hopefully it'll help you. All right, we'll talk to you on Thursday. Actually, Thursday we do not have a paint along this Thursday, because I'll be plein air painting in an event in Mineral Point, Wisconsin, in Dodgeville, and so we'll see you probably the following Sunday and show you another demo. All right, bye bye.